Good evening, YouTube. It's Joe. It's April 20th, and it's, I don't know, 6 or something, 7 in the evening. And I just got back and sort of arranged my sewing room a little bit, and also set up a very similar situation for my pots and pans in the kitchen, because I'm dying without a way to deal with my pots and pans. The kitchen's really small, and there's not a lot of storage space, and the storage space is really badly put. Like, there's a corner cupboard that things just get lost in. So, I don't know, today it hit me like a ton of bricks. Pegboard. Have you ever heard of such a thing? Let me show you. This is my sewing area, by the way. There's my sewing machine. This is a pegboard. It's like a piece of board with holes in it. I spray painted it white, and then you buy these hooks. And by the way, that's a $15 light from IKEA, and that's a $3 pegboard with, I don't know, $2 worth of spray paint and about $10 worth of hooks. And it's just giving me such colossally cheap thrill, because my sewing area is under a loft bed. I don't know if you saw the graded thing up there, but I'm actually under a bed right now. That's up on the loft bed, and it's a cute little cubby hole, but it's very dark under here sometimes, so I needed bright light. I bought this IKEA light. Love it. Always wanted a pegboard since I saw my friend Paloma's and adored it. But it just hit me now to get one for the kitchen for the pots and pans, and now I've got one for the sewing room and the pots and pans, and I love it. There goes Eli again. So I guess today's topic is going to be about, as they say, eating the elephant a bite at a time, or dealing with things one little thing at a time. So I tend to get overwhelmed in life, specifically as it relates to mess or stuff, or an inability to deal with stuff. And I used to buy just, Rubbermaid bins and stick everything in there, and then everything got buried and get lost, and then I took to putting like labels on the bins. I wonder if I have one here. No, I have a Rubbermaid bin here, but it's got no label on it. From when I was living in the van, and the bins were under the bed in the van to keep the storage. The bed in the van was a cot, and there was storage space underneath, so I used that for the bins that had labels. But soon after I started buying stuff, the labels became moot. So yeah, in my life I've had troubles dealing with stuff. And I wish I could live a minimalistic life, but I can't. But I'm getting better. And ever since I moved here, and I have a basement for the first time in my life, and I have storage space for things like camping gear that used to just be in my sewing room. Eli, please stop it. Hi, come here, baby. Since I used to have no storage space, no external storage space or garage or anything like that, all of my crap sort of stacked up to the ceiling with me, and it was a slight nightmare, because this was my living space, and it was taken out by Rubbermaid bins full of camping gear and stuff like that. That stuff's now all in the basement, so the sewing room, for example, now is a dedicated sewing room, and I'm just delighted. I just haven't had one of these in a long time. I can't even imagine. In fact, I don't even quite know. I know I need to put the ironing board up permanently, because that's how I function. I need to be able to iron as I quilt. So that's going to have to happen. And this room isn't that big, but it is bigger than my old sewing room. Yeah, this pegboard's given me such a cheap thrill, because it reminds me that each hook can have one thing on it. And that was what I wanted to mention. That's right. So this topic today is called Eating the Elephant a Bite at a Time, but I'll also make reference to a book that I read that changed my life, called Organizing from the Inside Out, by I think it's Julia Morgenstern, or I can't remember her name. Anyway, this book taught me how to declutter and maintain order in my life. And the way she did it was through a very simple analogy, and she calls it the kindergarten classroom. So she says, how is it that kindergartners are able to keep a tidy workspace? Because when you say tidy up time, all the 5-year-olds sort of know what to do to tidy up their workspace, and then they go to sit in a circle, and it's all done, and the whole kindergarten room's cleaned up, and you wonder, how did 5-year-olds do that when I can't do that? She said the secret is, it's a very easy secret, they're set up for success. Each station, so this is the whole thing. Every station, everything you do in life, if you made a list of all the things you did, so for me, I like to be on the computer, I like to quilt, I like to write, I like to cook, sleep. That's pretty much it. So my sleeping station has to have the things set up. For instance, I take pills in the morning and in the evening, so the pills should be by the bedside. I like an electric blanket, but I sometimes whatever, so there has to be an electric outlet nearby. There's a sleeping station. My sewing station has to have the things, so that has to be set up in such a way so that the things that I need are at the ready. Now the kitchen, for example, is a good example of how things can go terribly wrong. I used to have 4 barbecue utensils. I bought a kit, and it was like a flipper, tongs, a baster, and a fork. And there were 4 matching barbecue utensils, and they used to just sit on the top of the fridge, messy, and sometimes one would fall behind the fridge, and it was making everybody crazy, making me crazy. And she said, in a kindergarten classroom at the paint station, there's 4 jars with the 4 colors in it, 4 paintbrushes, 2 hooks, 2 smocks. So when you say tidy up time, the kid knows to put the yellow paintbrush in the yellow jar, hang up their smock on the hook, and go sit in a circle, and it's done. It's really like not rocket science. There's as many jars as there are paint. There are many hooks as there are smocks. And I remember the day I learned that, I was marveling at the simplicity. And I ran out and I bought this little thing that had 4 hooks on it. And I put it right by the back door where the barbecue was. And I hung my 4 barbecue utensils on it. And thinking, wow, it's really that easy. So now I have to have like utensil racks. I have to have as many hooks as I have utensils. And I have to have as many, I have to have a place for everything. And that's the secret. And it's very hard sometimes because you have to figure that out and make a plan before you do it. And a lot of times too, she suggests storage space. If you have the space first, you have to measure the space and then find the containers to fit it. So at the old house that I used to live in downtown Hamilton, I had a roommate for a while, and she was living in the bedroom, so I was in the front room that had a very strange closet. It didn't have a rod that I could hang stuff. It had 4 big deep shelves. So I measured the spots, and it turned out that I could fit 4, whatever, I can't even remember the dimensions, but something like 24 by 24, roughly 2 foot. And they were quite deep, like maybe 3 feet deep. So I could find Rubbermaid bins to fit, and I did. And that was how these white bins came to be. I bought 4 of them, and one was for socks and underwear and bras, and one was for shirts, and one was for pants. And I kind of told myself at the time that I could only have as many clothes as would fit in those bins. And it was a good way, because the more clothes you have, the more that spill out, and then where do they go, etc. And then I carried through, like my kitchen, I only have as many hooks as I have utensils. I only have as many utensils as I have hooks. This, I feel a little bit bad, because this situation that I just showed you is a bunch of hooks but nothing on them yet. I have to fill them up, and that's the backwards way to do it. Really, if you want to live a sane life, count what you have first, find the hooks to fit that number. Find the space you have. Like, look at the space, look at what you have, containerize to fit that space, and then pare down your life to fit it. So anyway, just passing on a few tidbits of how to keep a little bit sane in an insane world. And I'll just quickly bring the camera out. It's a slight mess here, but that's all right. By the way, there's my quilting storage space, which I haven't really dealt with yet. That one's messy. And here is the pots and pans rack, which I have just put up, but I haven't put much on it yet. And that's the bathroom door, and this is the kitchen area, which is, just a quick scan, because it's a bit of a mess. But kind of a thrill, because it gives me a spot. It gives me a spot to put my pots and pans, and I love it. Hope you have a great night. Take it easy.